My grandson mocked my old car until he needed it. The day my grandson filmed my beat-up car for laughs, he had no idea he'd soon be begging for those same keys. I stepped out of my house with grocery bags weighing down both arms when I heard the laughter cutting through the quiet afternoon. My teenage grandson Tyler stood in my driveway with 3 of his friends, all of them holding their phones up like weapons, pointing them directly at my faded 1994 sedan. "Junkyard Queen," one of them shouted, and the others erupted in laughter that echoed down the entire street. Tyler grinned wider than anyone, clearly the ringleader, performing for his audience. "My grandma still drives this rust bucket. Can you believe it?" He walked around the car slowly, dramatically, filming every dent, every scratch, every spot where the paint had faded to primer like he was documenting evidence of a crime. I stood frozen on my porch, grocery bags cutting circulation to my fingers. That night, scrolling through social media, I found the video he'd posted with the caption, "When your grandma won't let go of the past scold." 200 likes in an hour. When I called and asked him to take it down, he laughed. "It's just a joke, Grandma. Relax." But later, I heard him talking to his mother in her kitchen, his voice carrying through the phone line. "She should just give me her car." That night, alone in my dim garage, I ran my hand slowly across the cracked dashboard where my late husband had carefully glued a tiny compass before our final road trip together. His hands had been shaking that day, the cancer already stealing his strength and coordination, but he'd insisted on securing it there with steady determination. "So you'll always find your way home, sweetheart," he'd whispered, his voice already thin. I polished the dusty compass with my sleeve, tears blurring my vision until the small instrument became just a smudge of light. "This isn't junk," I whispered to the empty garage, to the ghost of my husband, to myself. "It's the last promise you left me." The car might have been old, might have had rust spots and a temperamental starter on cold mornings, but it held memories more valuable than any shiny new vehicle could ever offer. It was the car we'd driven to the ocean that final summer, windows down, his hand in mine. My phone buzzed suddenly, making me jump. A text from my daughter, Tyler's mother. "We're coming tomorrow to talk about the car. Be ready. This has gone on long enough." They arrived at 10 the next morning, clearly having rehearsed their arguments on the drive over. My daughter poured coffee in my kitchen while Tyler slouched at the table, scrolling through his phone with that permanent sneer teenagers wear like armor against the world. "Mom, that car is genuinely unsafe," my daughter began, her voice dripping with rehearsed concern. "It's embarrassing for Tyler to be seen anywhere near it. And frankly, it's selfish of you to keep it when he desperately needs reliable transportation." I calmly slid the recent inspection certificate across the table, letting it speak for itself. "Passed last month. Full insurance coverage. Completely roadworthy according to the state." Tyler's eyes flicked up from his phone, clearly annoyed that I'd anticipated this attack. "Plus," I added quietly, meeting my daughter's gaze, "it's paid off. No monthly payments eating into my fixed retirement income." My daughter's jaw tightened visibly. Tyler leaned forward, his voice suddenly dripping with false sweetness that made my skin crawl. "Then let me save you from the burden, Grandma. I'll take real good care of it. I promise." The word promise tasted like poison coming from his mouth after yesterday's public humiliation. After they left, tension still hanging in the air like smoke, I opened the mail that had been sitting untouched on my counter. A thick manila envelope from my lawyer contained documents I'd requested 3 weeks ago, before the mocking video, before I'd fully understood how deep the disrespect had grown. Transfer of title to a living trust with me listed as sole trustee until my death. No one could sell my car, trade it, donate it, or rehome it without my explicit written consent and signature. I filed the papers carefully in my fireproof desk drawer, a small smile playing at my lips despite everything. Let them try to take what wasn't theirs to claim or demand. Outside my front window, movement caught my attention. Tyler stood alone in my driveway with a yellow tape measure, walking slowly around my car, measuring length and width with focused concentration. His phone was out again, screen glowing, Probably looking up resale values on Kelly Blue Book, calculating exactly how much cash my husband's last gift to me might bring him if he could just get his hands on it. 3 days later, karma came knocking in the form of a completely dead battery in Tyler's borrowed car. His mother called me early, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. Tyler has a crucial job interview tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock sharp. 2 towns over for the co-op program at his school. It could mean college credit and real experience. His car won't start, and the mechanic says it needs a whole new electrical system. Rideshare prices are absolutely insane right now because of some concert. I listened silently, stirring my morning tea, letting the silence stretch between us. He desperately needs reliable transportation by tomorrow morning, she continued, practically begging now. Can he please borrow your car? Just this once? I know things have been tense, but this is his future. I heard Tyler's voice in the background, loud and entitled as always. Tell her I'll be careful with the junkyard queen. It's not like I can hurt it worse than it already is. That night, my phone lit up with a text directly from Tyler. I'll take your car tomorrow. Keys are on the hook by the door, right? Thanks. No question mark. No please. Just pure assumption wrapped in teenage entitlement. When Tyler arrived at my house at 7 the next morning, clearly expecting to grab keys and run, I was waiting calmly on the front porch with the keys tucked securely in my pocket. Ready to go, he asked impatiently, reaching out his hand with barely concealed irritation at having to interact with me. I pulled out a folded piece of paper instead, a list I'd written carefully in my best handwriting the night before. Terms and conditions, I said calmly, unfolding it. You'll fuel it before you leave and after you return. You'll respect the vehicle, no trash, no food, no rough driving. You'll return it by curfew, which is 10 p.m. sharp. And before you drive it anywhere, you'll learn basic maintenance from me first. He actually laughed in my face, a sharp bark of disbelief. Grandma, I don't have time for your petty games. The interview is in less than an hour, and I still have to drive there. I jingled the keys in my pocket, the sound stopping him mid-protest. Then you'd better start listening fast, sweetheart. His cocky smile faded completely when I added the final condition with a sweet smile. Oh, and Tyler? It's a manual transmission. Stick shift. His face went pale. You're kidding me. I absolutely wasn't. My driveway became an impromptu theater of public humiliation, and for once in his life, Tyler was the unwilling star in a way he definitely didn't want. The engine stalled 6 times in the first 10 minutes alone. The car lurched forward in embarrassing bunny hops while neighbors watered their gardens and walked their dogs, clearly entertained by the free show. I sat perfectly calm in the passenger seat, giving clear instructions in an even voice while Tyler's face flushed redder with each spectacular failure. Clutch in slowly. Feel for the friction point. Now give it just a little gas. Gentle, gentle, like you're handling something precious. The car jerked forward violently for 3 feet and died again with a shudder. Mrs. Patterson from across the street wasn't even pretending not to watch anymore, a huge smile on her face. Tyler's hands gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turned bone white. This is completely impossible, he shouted, voice cracking with frustration. But he tried again because he had no choice. And again. And again. On the 15th attempt, something finally clicked literally and figuratively. The car rolled smoothly forward, clutch engaging perfectly, engine purring. Tyler's shoulders relaxed slightly. Then his cool friend from the original mocking video appeared on the sidewalk, phone already raised to film. Yo, Tyler. Having trouble with grandmas. Tyler's voice cut through the air like a knife. Stop. Just stop filming. We spent the next tense hour in my garage while Tyler's precious interview time ticked closer and closer. I methodically showed him where to check the oil, how to read the dipstick properly, how to check tire pressure with a gauge my husband had left permanently stored in the glove box. Cars aren't toys for status, I said quietly, seriously. They're responsibilities. They carry precious cargo, people you love, people who depend on you. Tyler nodded impatiently, but I could clearly see the barely controlled irritation radiating off him in waves. Now change that tire. I said calmly, pointing to the deliberately flat spare I'd left positioned in the corner of the garage. His eyes went absolutely wide with disbelief.
What? Now?
Right now? I have to get to. I checked my watch with exaggerated slowness. You have exactly 40 minutes until you need to leave. Better hurry and focus. His hands shook visibly as he positioned the jack incorrectly twice, fumbled repeatedly with the lug wrench, and skinned his knuckles badly on the sharp hubcap. But he did it. He actually changed that tire himself, sweat beading on his forehead, grease staining his interview clothes, determination finally replacing entitlement. When he stood up, breathing hard and proud despite himself, there was something genuinely different in his eyes. My phone rang sharply. His mother, voice sharp as broken glass. What are you doing? You're manipulating him, making him do your chores instead of actually helping him succeed. I hung up without responding and tossed Tyler the keys. Tyler returned at exactly 1 a.m, 3 full hours past the clearly stated curfew we'd agreed on. I'd been sitting in my dark living room, watching the clock, worry and anger mixing equally in my chest. When he finally pulled carelessly into the driveway, I walked out slowly to meet him in the cool night air. The gas tank was sitting on empty. Fast food wrappers and soda cups littered the passenger seat. There was a fresh, unexplained scratch on the rear bumper. Where were you? I asked quietly, keeping my voice level. He shrugged, wouldn't meet my eyes directly.
Out.
With friends. After the interview. It ran late, then we grabbed food. I could smell the lie mixed with stale French fries and cheap teenage cologne. You broke our agreement, I said simply, holding out my hand palm up.
Keys.
Right now. He slapped them into my palm harder than necessary. Whatever. I don't even need your stupid rust bucket anyway. I locked the keys securely in my desk drawer. You have another interview tomorrow morning at 9. Final call back from the company. Good luck finding a reliable ride this time. Tyler's face transformed from defiant to genuinely panicked in 2 seconds flat. You can't do this to me. You're going to ruin my entire future. This was my only real chance at this program. He screamed it so loud the neighbor's dog started barking frantically. But I'd already closed my door. At 5 a.m, I knocked firmly on Tyler's bedroom door. He opened it with red, swollen eyes and rumpled clothes. Clearly hadn't slept at all, wrestling with consequences. Get dressed properly, I said. I'm driving you to the bus stop. His pride visibly warred with desperate need on his exhausted face. Finally, he nodded silently and grabbed his wrinkled interview clothes. We drove through completely empty streets in heavy silence, my junkyard queen, purring smoothly despite her age and appearance. At the bus stop, I reached into the back seat and pulled out a carefully folded spare tie, navy blue with thin silver stripes. My husband's absolute favorite. Wear this today, I said, pressing it into Tyler's cold hand. And please remember that respect opens far more doors than entitlement ever will. He took the tie without speaking, but something in his teenage face softened visibly. Then my phone buzzed urgently. Weather alert, severe storms approaching. All bus routes canceled until further notice for safety. Tyler's crucial interview was scheduled for 9 o'clock. It was already 6:30. He looked at me with genuine fear replacing his usual arrogance. I called the company directly, explained the situation calmly and professionally. They were sympathetic but firm. They absolutely would not reschedule. One chance only. That afternoon, while Tyler sat defeated and silent at my kitchen table, staring at nothing, our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, knocked unexpectedly on my door. She'd witnessed everything from her front window across the street. The mocking video, the painful driving lessons, the late-night return, all of it. I heard through the neighborhood that he needs transportation, she said, dangling her pristine SUV keys. These are for you to borrow, not for someone who publicly disrespects the people genuinely trying to help him. Tyler overheard from the kitchen doorway, his face flushing with shame. Mrs. Patterson wasn't remotely finished. You mocked my granddaughter last summer for drawing innocent chalk pictures on the sidewalk. You called her a stupid baby.
Do you remember that?
Tyler's eyes dropped to the floor like stones. You burn bridges carelessly, young man, and eventually you run out of safe places to cross. After she left, closing the door quietly behind her, I made a phone call. 20 minutes of calm, professional negotiation later, I hung up and looked directly at Tyler. Same-day interview. Today at 2 p.m. The hiring manager is personally giving you one final shot. If you can actually get there on time. Tyler's eyes widened with desperate hope. How did you possibly? I held up one finger. If you can get there on my terms, my rules, my conditions. I pulled out a fresh piece of paper and a pen from my desk drawer. We're making this official and binding, I said, writing carefully in clear block letters. Driving privileges in exchange for documented community service. You'll help me deliver hot meals to shut-ins twice a week minimum. You'll maintain a detailed log of every single mile, every task completed. You'll treat this car with the respect it absolutely deserves. Tyler read the handwritten contract 3 times slowly, clearly looking for loopholes he wouldn't find. And if I actually do all this? His voice was quieter now, genuinely different. Then the car is yours to use regularly, earned through character, not given through entitlement. I slid the pen across the table. Sign it.
Right now.
Or walk to your interview. He did, his signature shaky but present. Outside, his mother's car suddenly screeched into my driveway. She burst through my front door, face absolutely red with fury. If he doesn't get that job, we're completely done with you. You hear me?
Done.
You're making everything so much harder for him with your petty, vindictive revenge. I looked at my daughter calmly, sadly. I'm teaching him what you should have taught years ago. Now, please leave. He has an important interview to prepare for. The first official community service run happened that Saturday morning. Tyler drove carefully while I navigated, directing him to a small, worn house just 3 blocks away. Mr. Cole answered the door slowly, 87 years old, widower, decorated veteran who'd lost his license after a severe stroke left him partially blind. Soup delivery, I announced cheerfully. Tyler carried the container carefully, suddenly hyper-aware he was being watched and evaluated by someone who genuinely mattered. Mr. Cole studied him with sharp eyes that had seen combat, loss, and decades of life. You the one driving her car now? He asked directly. Tyler nodded wordlessly. Then you're responsible for precious cargo every single time you turn that key. Every time. On the way back to the car, Tyler opened Mr. Cole's door without being asked, adjusted the seat carefully so the old man could sit comfortably, and buckled his seatbelt with surprisingly gentle hands. I said absolutely nothing, but I noticed everything. As we pulled slowly away from the curb, Mr. Cole saluted through the window. Military sharp, deeply meaningful. Respect the driver that gets you home safely, son. Always. Tyler's hands tightened visibly on the steering wheel, but he was smiling. Really smiling. Over the next week, Tyler changed the oil in my driveway while neighbors walked past, some stopping to watch with interest. Some offered unsolicited advice. The same neighbors who'd witnessed the cruel mocking video now saw something completely different. A teenager on his knees, learning, working, covered in grease, but genuinely trying to improve. A different kid from school, someone I didn't recognize, paused on the sidewalk. Cool old car, he said casually, genuinely. My uncle had one exactly like it. They're actually classics now. Worth keeping. Tyler looked up from his work, genuinely surprised. Yeah. The kid nodded seriously.
Yeah.
Definitely worth maintaining properly. Tyler almost smiled, a real smile, not the performative sneer he usually wore like armor. But that night, his former filming friend posted yet another video. This one showed Tyler in my driveway, changing oil, with a cruel caption, "When you're too broke for real wheels, so you serve Granny for a rust bucket." 300 likes. Countless laughing comments. Tyler saw it during dinner, his phone lighting up with notifications. His face went dark with rage and humiliation, and before I could stop him or say anything, he grabbed my keys and stormed out. The engine roared to life. He was gone, tires squealing. Tyler returned 2 hours late again, screeching recklessly into the driveway like he was proving something to invisible watchers. I met him outside in the darkness, the signed contract held firmly in my hand. You broke the terms. Again. Deliberately. He climbed out, slamming the door hard enough to make me physically wince. I needed space. That video, everyone at school is laughing at me now. I held out my hand, palm up, unwavering.
Keys.
1 week suspension. Per the contract you signed willingly. His face twisted with rage, then something else, something that looked uncomfortably like genuine hurt. You don't understand what it's like. To be humiliated online constantly. To have everyone. I cut him off firmly. I understand perfectly. I was humiliated first, remember? In my own driveway.
By you.
For thousands of strangers to mock. The words hung between us like smoke in the cool night air. Tyler dropped the keys into my palm without another word and walked inside, shoulders hunched. Later that night, passing through the dark kitchen for water, I saw him sitting alone at the table in darkness, face buried in his hands, shoulders shaking. He didn't know I was watching. He didn't know I saw him cry for the first time in years. 5 days into the suspension, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. The company. We have one final opening, the HR manager said professionally. Today at 3 p.m. It's the absolute last chance we can offer your grandson. I found Tyler in his room, staring blankly at his ceiling, defeated. They called, I said from the doorway. One more interview. Final opportunity. His head snapped up, desperate hope and crushing anxiety flooding his face simultaneously. Can I take the car? I held up the keys, let them dangle, glinting in the afternoon light. On one condition. One non-negotiable condition. Tyler sat up. What? I pulled up the original mocking video on my phone. Still posted, still public, still there. You made a public insult. You need to make an equally public apology. Tyler's throat worked as he swallowed his massive pride. What exactly do you mean? I handed him my phone. Same audience. Same platform. Real words from your actual heart. We stared at each other for a long, tense moment. Finally, he stood, walked past me without speaking, and knocked on Mrs. Patterson's door across the street. I watched from my porch as he spoke to her quietly, hands shoved deep in his pockets. She listened carefully, then nodded. When he came back, his eyes were wet. Can we please go now? He asked. I tossed him the keys. Rain hammered the windshield relentlessly as Tyler drove, both hands gripping the wheel properly, eyes focused with an intensity I'd never seen before. Traffic was absolutely brutal. A massive delivery truck stalled on a steep hill ahead of us, hazard lights blinking uselessly. My old car struggled, engine working harder than usual. Downshift, I said calmly, clearly. Tyler's hand found the gear shift instinctively, dropped down smoothly to second, felt the engine respond with power. Good. Now check your mirrors carefully. Signal properly. Ease around safely. He did exactly as I taught him over these weeks. Slow, careful, aware of the cars behind us and the wet pavement beneath us. The car handled it perfectly, decades of my husband's careful maintenance paying off. We arrived at the office building with exactly 10 minutes to spare, but the parking lot was completely, impossibly full. Tyler circled twice, rain still coming down in heavy sheets. A security guard appeared at the main entrance, holding up one hand authoritatively. Lots completely full. No more entries today. Interview slots are closed. Sorry, kid. Tyler's face fell completely. All that work, all that growth, all that change for nothing. Don't miss what happens next. Like and subscribe to see if Tyler gets his second chance. Tyler put the car in park, but didn't turn off the engine. Through the rain-blurred windshield, I could see him thinking, weighing options, calculating. Then he opened his door decisively and walked straight to the security guard, getting completely soaked. I grabbed the navy tie from the glove box, the one my husband had worn to his first real job, and followed. Sir, Tyler said, and his voice didn't shake at all. I know I'm late, but I've driven through a storm, learned to respect a car that people called worthless junk, and kept a detailed maintenance log for 3 weeks because my grandmother taught me that responsibility isn't given, it's earned. He pulled out his phone and showed the guard the meticulous log.
Please.
Just let me try. The security guard looked at me, at the tie I held, at the beat-up car that had gotten us here safely. What's the tie for? Tyler reached for it carefully. My grandfather wore this to his first job interview. He's gone now, but I want to honor him properly. The guard pulled out his radio slowly. HR, this is front gate. I have a young man here you need to meet personally. Through the window, the interviewer appeared and stopped, staring at my car with recognition. My dad had one of those, he said, smiling genuinely. Best car he ever owned. The interview wasn't in a sterile office. They took Tyler to a workshop floor, handed him a broken equipment panel and a basic set of hand tools and said simply, fix it. Explain your process as you work. I watched through the observation window as Tyler approached the problem methodically, checking connections carefully, testing circuits, working slowly and carefully like he'd learned to change oil. He solved it in 40 minutes. The interviewer made detailed notes, nodded approvingly, conferred quietly with colleagues. You're methodical, patient. You don't rush or take shortcuts. Tyler looked up. My grandmother taught me that shortcuts break things, and broken things leave people stranded when they need help most. They offered him a probationary position starting Monday. Not permanent yet, he'd have to prove himself over time. But it was a real chance, earned entirely on merit, not pity or connections. Tyler shook hands professionally, thanked them genuinely, and walked out standing taller than I'd ever seen him. On the way home, celebrating quietly, we hit a dark stretch of highway. Then came the unmistakable sound of a tire blowing out. The car pulled hard to the right. Tyler didn't panic. He gripped the wheel firmly, controlled it, and guided us safely onto the shoulder. Tyler set up the emergency triangles I'd made him pack, positioned them exactly as I'd taught him. He jacked up the car, removed the blown tire, and installed the spare with hands that didn't shake anymore. I stood back, letting him work, watching him do everything right without my intervention. As he lowered the car carefully, he paused, looking at the blown tire. Warm side away from traffic, right? He said, positioning it correctly without me saying a single word. Pride swelled painfully in my chest. But before I could speak, Tyler's phone rang loudly. His mother's voice came through so loud I could hear it from 6 feet away. You put him in danger. On a highway. At night. In that death trap. What kind of grandmother? Tyler took the phone, his voice firm and clear.
Mom.
Stop. I had a blowout. I handled it because Grandma taught me how. She didn't put me in danger. She prepared me for it. Silence on the other end. Then the call ended abruptly. The next day, they showed up at my house together, Tyler and his mother. I braced for another fight, another accusation, another demand. But Tyler spoke first, standing between us like a bridge instead of a barrier. I need to say something to both of you. I was disrespectful, entitled, and genuinely cruel.
I thought Grandma owed me something.
But nobody owes me anything. His mother started to interrupt, but Tyler held up his hand. She helped me when she could have just said no. She taught me things you didn't teach me. And I'm grateful. I looked at my daughter, years of accumulated tension crackling between us. Respect is the rent we pay for living in civilized society, I said quietly. I won't negotiate away my boundaries. Not for you. Not for anyone. My daughter's jaw tightened. Then, slowly, she pulled out her phone, found Tyler's original mocking video, and deleted it. I'm sorry, she whispered, for enabling him, for not seeing what was happening. Tyler hugged her. Then they both left quietly. That night, I sat alone in my garage, hand on the dashboard, and cried. A week later, my lawyer appeared at my door unannounced, carrying a sealed envelope. Your husband set this up years ago, he explained. I was instructed to open it only when certain specific conditions were met. Inside was documentation for a fund, money my husband had carefully saved and invested, designated specifically for tuition assistance. But there was a catch. Any grandchild who completes 100 hours of community driving service qualifies for full tuition support. The lawyer laid out Tyler's maintenance log on my kitchen table. We counted together carefully. 96 hours. Tyler arrived for our scheduled meal delivery run and saw the papers spread out. "What's this?" he asked. I explained everything. Watched his face go pale as he stared at the number. 96. "4 more hours," he whispered. "Just 4 more." The lawyer nodded seriously. "Service must be completed within 30 days of learning about the fund. Clock starts now." Tyler looked at me, then at the car keys. "Can we start today?" We spent that entire day in steady rain, running deliveries like our lives depended on it. Mr. Cole needed a ride to the doctor. Mrs. Patterson's sister needed groceries. Someone 3 neighborhoods over needed their dog returned from the emergency vet. Tyler drove carefully, patiently, treating each passenger like they were precious cargo. Hour 97. Hour 98. Hour 99. As we pulled up to deliver dinner to a family whose car had been repossessed, Tyler turned to me. "Thank you," he said simply, "for not giving up on me, for making me work for it." Hour 100 came quietly, without fanfare, in the driveway of a woman who'd lost her husband last year and had no one to take her to physical therapy. Tyler signed the final line in his log, hand steady, and then, without warning, he hugged me. Really hugged me, like I was something valuable he'd almost lost. Outside, his former friend appeared on the sidewalk, sheepish. "Tyler? Man, I need a huge favor. I have a job interview tomorrow, and my ride fell through.
Can you help?
Tyler looked at me, then back at his friend, the same friend who'd filmed the mocking videos, who'd posted the cruel captions, who'd laughed the loudest. I can drive you, Tyler said slowly. But first, you need to apologize. To my grandmother. For real. The boy shifted his weight, uncomfortable. Tyler, come on, man. It was just jokes. Tyler cut him off. It wasn't jokes. It was cruel. And if you want my help, you'll make it right. Right now. I watched from my porch as the boy approached, hands in his pockets, eyes on the ground. I'm sorry, ma'am, he mumbled. For the videos. For laughing. It was wrong. I studied him for a long moment. Apology accepted. But you'll need an umbrella. It's supposed to rain again. I handed him one from my hall closet. Tyler nodded at me, pride and understanding passing between us, without words. Monday morning arrived like any other day, except it wasn't. Tyler had his first real day of work ahead of him. We sat in my lawyer's office with papers spread across the mahogany desk. The community service log, the tuition fund documentation, and one more document I'd prepared weeks ago. This is a conditional transfer of title, I explained to Tyler. When you complete your 6-month probation at work, and when you maintain the community driving program, helping at least 2 people per week, this car becomes yours. Tyler stared at the paper like it was a contract from another world. Not as a toy, not as status, but as a tool to serve others and yourself. The lawyer witnessed Tyler's signature, then mine. It was done. Legal. Binding. Tyler's hands shook as he reached across the desk. I don't deserve this, he whispered. You earned it, I corrected. There's a difference. Outside in the parking lot, Tyler stood by the car, his car now, in all but final paperwork, and wiped the dusty dashboard with his sleeve like it was made of gold. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the tiny compass my husband had glued there so many years ago. I'd carefully removed it that morning. I pressed it into Tyler's palm, closing his fingers around it. Find your way, I said. And take someone with you.